And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Graveyard with your host, Roger Belt. And unfortunately, we are live. All right, somebody's sharing the stage.
Well, that's not me.
With your host, Roger. But I don't know who it is.
Here, let me mute it. Oh, really? That's not me. Hang on. What the hell? There we go again. Really? All right.
Okay, we got it.
Yeah, I just can't see chat now.
Okay, you paused the player, right?
Yeah, I did, and I could still hear it.
I don't know what in the world. Anyway,
yeah, let's moving along.
Moving along. As I said, Christina couldn't be here tonight. She's got some personal stuff going on. But my other partner in crime from last night's show, I know some of you will remember, Michelle Fitzpatrick is here to help me out. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
we have an interesting show for you tonight. We're talking about Ouija boards and a little history and, of course, some stories involving Ouija boards and what have you. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and being the Southern gentleman that I am, Michelle is going to start us off.
Yeah, thank you, fine sir. And Ouija boards have always intrigued, me, and I guess anybody that's in this field has always wondered if, they were real or not. So this is definitely an interesting topic. Some people say that it's a tool of the devil, a harmless family game, fascinating glimpse into the non-conscious mind. Could it be one or all of those? The Ouija board's been, their roots are in spiritualism, which actually began in the United States in the late 1840s. There was a movement that was led by mediums who claimed to be intermediaries between the living and the dead. Like today we would call them psychics and mediums, of course.
Right.
There were a number of ways that mediums would follow and believe that they were communicating, with messages from those who had passed. One way, table turning, involved, like a table moving, table tipping, I think it's called today, moving or knocking on the floor in response to letters called out, the alphabet. Another method uses the planchette, which is the triangle shaped centerpiece that you put your fingers on. It's a heart-shaped device that has two wheels. I know people that will actually use a pencil or a pen at the bottom, so they do automatic drawing with that. Pencil to the point. And then the user places the fingers on them, and you would be guided by the spirits, and they would write, also known as automatic writing sometimes. Both methods were problematic. Table tipping took too long. Planchette writing was hard to decipher. And according to the Museum of Talking Boards, some mediums got rid of these methods altogether. They preferred to channel while in a trance, while others built complicated tables, dials, tables painted with letters that required people to use a planchette as a pointer. This method ultimately became the most popular and paved the way to what we now know as the Ouija board.
And the Ouija board, of course, has been used by thousands of people for spirit communication and is very similar to automatic writing. The only difference between the two being the absence of the board itself. In automatic writing, both forms of communication are very dangerous, as are seances, because they are usually uncontrolled forms of communications. In other words, individuals that use these channels are usually novices and are unaware of the possible dangers that await. A controlled situation would be the perfect thing, but it would be where a psychic medium or clairvoyant is present. This way, the medium could sense any dangers and present and close off the communication before any harm was done. The Ouija board is just a piece of compressed wood sold at virtually all toy stores and occult supply and bookstores. Ouija is a contribution of two words, and I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this Ouija, which means yes in French and German, respectively. The board itself is not dangerous, but the form of communication that you are attempting often is. Most often, spirits whom are contacted through the Ouija are those whom reside on the lower astral plane. The spirits are often very confused and may have died a violent or sudden death, murder, suicide, etc. Therefore, many violent, negative, and potentially dangerous conditions are present to those using the board. Oftentimes, several spirits will attempt to come through at the same time, but the real danger lies when you ask for physical proof of their existence. You might say, well, if you're really a spirit, then put out this light or move that object. What you have just done is simple. You have opened a doorway and allowed them to enter into the physical world, and future problems can often do arise. So that's a little note to take in, anybody that plays with those things.
Mm-hmm.
What if the Ouija really does not contact spirits? What if it only accesses our own subconscious? Now, see, that's a thought I never thought of about Ouija boards.
Oh, yeah. We can elaborate on that here shortly.
It's my opinion that the Ouija reflects the state of mind of the people who are using it, even if on a subconscious level. If you are frightened or nervous or even expecting something negative to happen, that's very much what you might get. On the other hand, some people using it with a completely different attitude have had a very positive experience.
Yeah. I really like that. A lot of time when I get into an adult debate with someone who is for the Ouija board and not for the Ouija board, but thinks that the Ouija board is more, well, maybe they've had experiences. I find my wording difficult sometimes because I'm normally so blunt, but I have to be careful. That way I respect people. Yes, I get in debates about this all the time. It's like nowadays we don't really use the Ouija to communicate. We have all this other stuff, correct? Video recorders, EVP recorders, SB7s, just all kinds of stuff.
Some people still use them, but
yeah. Well, it's a portal opener. It's a doorway, just the same way as an EVP recorder would be.
Having said what I just said about the subconscious mind thing, a question comes up. When some people use Ouija boards and they, quote unquote, here, open a channel or a doorway, if it is not a spirit, but it is your subconscious mind, and after you've done this session, maybe days later, stuff is happening. Could you have created that also from
Absolutely.
mind, because you went into this session knowing that you could have possibly opened up a doorway and you're expecting negative things to happen?
Absolutely. Especially, if you go into it expecting negative, you will manifest it. I mean, let's compare that let's compare it to a poltergeist. Poltergeist is a German word for noisy ghost. That's all it means. But I've worked a poltergeist case, and basically a poltergeist is a manifestation from within that person that creates that entity. That entity does not exist unless it's created by the person, and it usually only happens when that person is going through things that are very traumatic.
Yes.
So it's the same way. Yeah, if you believe something strong enough, it's going to happen because of the power of manifestation.
Well, it's like the power of suggestion. Okay. And I actually proved that does work. I made my brother sick as a dog one time.
Yeah. Yeah. We
So
are much stronger than we know. You
exactly, it
know,
scared the crap out
yeah.
of me when it actually worked.
Right, right.
I felt
What's my
really
dog
bad,
doing?
but
Oh,
anyway,
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely there's a lot of controversy about this board, but there's something called the idlemeter effect, and it says people can move something without their conscious mind even realizing it. And I think we just touched on that a little bit.
well,
You
and I
know,
think your subconscious kind
mhm.
of pushes itself out there even when you're not concentrating on it. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
like
I totally,
sometimes
totally agree.
something will come forth and
Hmm.
you're not really expecting it.
Well, you know, like in the case of the Ouija board, if you really want to, if you want the answer to the question to be a yes, chances are, you know, with the power of telekinesis, you could move the planchette without even realizing it
Right,
to the word yes. You
right.
know, so I totally believe that that's possible. You could even test the effect yourself. You can like take a string and tie something moderately heavy to it, kind of like I guess a pendulum. Extend your arm out, hold the string with the hanging object as still as possible, you know, and then all you got to do is think for that to move to one direction or the other or into a
Yeah,
circle, and chances are it's going to happen. Even though you think your arm is motionless, you know, the object will start moving because I do pendulum and I hold my hand very still and I'm telling you that sucker moves, you know, and for me it's my spirit guides coming through and all that stuff, you know.
exactly. And
It
you're
could
right.
be
They are
yeah.
also called witch boards.
Right, they are called witch boards. You know, it's an example of implicit unconscious cognition. There's been a lot of experiments with the Ouija boards and concepts like it may end up revealing quite a lot
Yeah,
about how the mind makes decisions below our level of awareness, and that's always been fascinating for me. You know, but that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with turning to a Ouija board for answers. Of course, that's controversial as well. Or trying to channel spirits like at Halloween. Woo! You
uh,
just might you might be channeling the dark depths of an inaccessible
Ronnie,
unconsciousness.
hold on just a second, please.
Okay. Hmm.
Uh, hold on, and if you would like to come on, I can get you on here. If PM me on Facebook, I'll give you a link. Or never mind, wait just a second. I'll do it this way. Let me get over here. Um, da, 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 da. What I'm gonna do is, and let's hope this works right. I'm gonna put the live link right here. Okay,
Okay.
there you go. Now, Rowdy, if you want to click that link there, you should be able to come in here with us if you like. Didn't know you could call in. Well, it's not exactly like calling in. You're just joining in.
Yeah, that's the old school way. That's how we used to do it before. People would call a number and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, with YouTube Live, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
Okay, so
Well, I mean, yeah, I think we've pretty much, you know, touched on some interesting I don't want to say facts because none of this is proven.
exactly.
However, it's
It's
very
like the paranormal field.
theoretical. Yeah.
Nobody knows everything. We're just uh,
Right, right,
putting out some information that is possible.
right, right. So let's talk about how to use it, how to use the board. And the Ouija board obviously is a flat wooden surface, you know, which has the letters from A to Z, numbers from 0 to 9. Typically, they've changed a lot, you know, but in the olden days, they had a sun and a moon symbol, a movable indicator, also known as a planchette. People have used rocks glasses, you know, that you would pour a rocks drink in, like a whiskey or bourbon, turn it upside down. You can use stuff like that. And it's used for everybody to put their fingers on it and supposedly answer the questions that the user asks. In popular culture, I mean, all of the rage in the 1920s, these words were all over the place. And actually, the Winchester House I forget her name, but the lady who owned the Winchester house used psychics and Ouija boards all the time. And that's why she built the Winchester house in the manner in which she did, which were stairways that lead to nowhere, because a psychic told her that that's the only way to trick the ghost. So they couldn't follow her around the house. So it's, but I think we all agree that it is some sort of spiritual gateway in one way or another, that's used to contact the dead.
Well, whether it be your subconscious or whether it be an actual spirit. If you're contacting your subconscious, that's kind of interesting too.
Your higher self. I'm a spiritualist, and I do believe in the higher self. And the spirit guides. So it could be as simple as that, or it could be Zozo, which is a whole nother topic.
Yeah, and
in itself.
And actually, we will get into that on a future show of Timeless Dimensions and Half Past Dead. So everybody prepared for that one. It will come up.
Yeah. I've got the Zozo man himself is on our guest list.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Zozo man is on the guest list, and at some point in time, we will bring him on and we will talk about Zozo.
Yeah.
Roddy, if you can't get in there, it's possible you have to have a YouTube and a Google account in order to do the live, and so that may be the problem. I'm not sure.
I know for me, it takes two different electronic devices. I have to use my phone for one and my laptop for the other. For me, it won't work on just one.
Okay. No, you can't see me. And hey, Bill, William Wallace is on with us. So I love William. William's my buddy. No, you can't see. We're just showing the picture because we didn't feel like dressing up tonight, but.
I didn't feel like dressing up tonight. I was like, can we please put a picture up?
So we put up a picture. Hey, Divergent Path is here. Welcome, you guys and girls.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, welcome.
Okay, Roddy says, I do have Hangouts, been on Paranormal Suit via Google Hangouts. Okay, this is run through YouTube Live and also Google Hangouts, so you have to have both, I believe. At least that's what it told me back in the day.
Yeah. See, I've got Hangouts on my cell phone, but not on my computer. So I use my phone for the Hangouts.
You can't, William, you can't hear us? He says just can't hear.
Oh, bummer. Can you see? Well, I can't type in the chat if you can see the chat. I'm going to make me a glass of tea while you're doing that.
Okay. Bill is in the house. William, can you not hear me? If you can hear me there, type me an answer. No, I can't hear you. Then how did you know I said, can you hear me? Okay. No, I can't. Can you hear me? No, I can't hear you.
No.
Okay. I don't understand why you can't hear us. Oh, I do not. Then I have YouTube Live, although I am watching on my laptop and tried to put it on the tablet. Bill is listening. Okay, if Bill is listening, does that mean Bill can hear now? Y'all are confusing me, Bill. What are you doing to me, Bill? Anyway, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, like after you figure out what type of board to get, and it's crazy when you said, wasn't it Mattel that sold these boards in like Kmart? Who was it?
It wasn't Mattel. It was another toy company. Dadgummit. You hadn't
I
said
know I can't remember either.
if you
I'll
hadn't
have to
said that,
Google
I
that
could have
later.
told you. Parker Brothers.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I do believe they have pulled them from the stores, or they were supposed to. I'm not sure. But anyway, once you find your board, which a lot of people do make them now and sell them, all over the internet, so you don't necessarily have to go to a. You can get them custom made. I have a couple of friends on my
Yeah,
list that do that.
Parker Brothers. Mattel.
Parker Brothers, that's right. Yeah.
And
But
Mattel,
anyway, after
I
you,
think,
oh, go
was
ahead.
involved somewhere along the line. I think Mattel got it from Parker Brothers, didn't they?
Probably. It's been so long. I
And
haven't.
and
Yeah.
and, and that post that Mary put up earlier, I thought that was very, very interesting. The fact
Hmm.
that the age to buy a Ouija board
Right.
or to use one is 8 years old, but you got to be 21
Uh-huh.
to buy alcohol.
21 to drink out. Yeah, so we can open up portals and draw in the demons from
Yeah,
hell, but you,
but
but
you
you
can't
can't
buy
drink.
beer.
Yeah.
I mean, well, oh well.
Uh, it's funny, but it's not. Actually, I know some people who totally believe that
Uh,
that
Mary
they
says
work.
you can buy them at Walmart in the kids section.
Oh, yeah. I heard somewhere a long time ago that they were going to pull them from the shelves, or that somebody petitioned for them to pull.
They
I didn't
should.
know if it went through.
They should. That is not a children's game.
Yeah, like light as a feather, stiff as a board. I think I even played that as a kid. It's whatever. Yeah. So after
Well,
you get
I
a board,
remember that from the Kraft movie.
yeah,
That was the board.
yeah, light as a feather.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, but then after you figure out what board you're going to use, they advise you to grab a couple friends, but technically you're supposed to play this alone. I guess kind of like the little girl in the Exorcist movie.
Yeah.
She played alone and talked to Mr. Happy or whatever his name was. But it's best to play with at least one other person, especially if it's dark and stormy, so you don't creep yourself out, I guess. Two people is idea. The more you have, the more hectic it could get. With people talking, and if it moves, everybody's going to scream. And but they say to try to keep it quiet because it confuses the spirits. And more than two is fine as well. Just make sure everyone stays calm and respectful. Then they encourage you to set the mood. Before getting down to the business of contacting the other side, you may want to get in the mood by dimming the lights, using candles, lighting incense, burning sage, which I do over everything, not just the Ouija board. We always sage, and we always, use a protection words, etc. You
Okay.
know, uh,
William brought up that it's your mind that opens the portal, and that's what we were talking
I
about.
agree. Yes, totally. We manifest what
Sometimes
happens.
it's actually what's doing the portal opening thing.
Right. And the Ouija can be all about timing as well. Sometimes the board, for people who believe in it, is ultra responsive, and sometimes, it's nothing will happen. It's best to try it at night in the wee hours, like the witching hour, between
Yeah.
12 midnight and 3 a.m. Ooh.
I wonder if that's why they call it a witch board.
Yeah, because of the witching hour. And of course you've got the demonic hour, which is 3 a.m., the inversion of the crucifixion, and so on and so on.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
supposed to remove all distractions, like don't have any music on, turn off the television, no kids running around. It's basically a seance, and it requires your undivided attention in order to be successful. No phones, don't, especially
Yeah.
now. Turn the freaking phones off. And be patient, be patient sometimes. And I know this firsthand, because I read cards and stuff like that. And, I've been in contact with my spirit guides, and sometimes they just don't come right through, they,
Right.
or maybe your mindset isn't prepared enough, well, I meditate, but, in order to do that, but, sometimes for them to build up the energy to come through, it may take a minute. And we paranormal researchers know that. We know that just because, your little K2 meter isn't going off right away, it takes a minute. They have to usually draw off the living in order to manifest the energy to move something, etc.
Now,
So you may not get your answers right away, but they say don't give up.
William
And
brought up a good point, though.
what's that?
Sorry to interrupt, but try doing that in a cemetery.
Ooh.
Yeah, boy, don't that give it the creepy effect?
Oh my gosh. Oh, nah, not me.
Just William is good about bringing up stuff like this. So
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
he
Yeah.
mentioned this 1,000 times. Me and him's going to get together one of these days and investigate the cemetery with a case of beer.
That's what's up right there. I would like to go to the Bell Witch and
Yeah.
do that. The Bell Witch,
Only
yeah.
thing is, Bell Witch Cave,
Mm-hmm.
as exciting as that sounds, they do not allow you to bring in a video camera or a camera to take pictures and none of that stuff.
What, do they just do tours?
They do the tours, and they want to sell you their pictures and stuff. They don't want you taking.
Oh, no. That's like Bobby Mackey's.
Yeah,
Bobby
so-
Mackey's has been cleansed so many times. There's nothing at Bobby Mackey's. Don't any of y'all go to Bobby Mackey's. It's so phony.
But if this is a portal to hell, come up here and get me.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, get my hair gel
Embarrassing.
back.
Yeah, embarrassing.
Give me my hair gel back.
I'm glad they've been found out. But anyway, be patient. Sometimes they need some time to warm up, basically. Sometimes the planchette will move very quickly. Sometimes it's very slow. If you're getting a message out of the planchette, it's kind of like waiting for dial-up on the old-style computers. Now we have this uber fast internet, so we get what we want right when we want it, and that's sort of somewhat programming us that we want responses right now.
Exactly.
So sometimes, it's good to walk away and then come back and see if you get a response then.
Exactly. Also, you want to be polite. If you're speaking to a highly communicative spirit, talk to it, be friendly. This will encourage him or her to cooperate with you. You may not get the answers you want. This is not the spirit of the board's fault. Getting angry or violent will just ruin the vibe of the board in the room. And if it's your subconscious mind, it will ruin the vibe of your angry subconscious mind. Just say it.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
Start simply. It's best not to bombard your spirit with questions on the content and length of your next history exam. Start simple, like a normal conversation. Your first question should have easy, short answers. How many spirits are in the room? Are you a good spirit? What is your name? Okay, now you can ask, and this is just a point I'm going to bring up here. You can ask, are you a good spirit? You can have a demon on the other side. Oh yeah, I'm real.
And the malevolent ones will lie.
Yeah,
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in mind. If you ask if it's a good spirit and it says yeah, don't be all ready to believe that and then go all gung ho. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and something else. If there's an old Ouija board that other people have used, there was one person I knew that found one in an attic of a house they bought or something, and no telling what energy is already attached to that board. So you may be getting, who knows what's coming through. So
you're supposed to close it out with the goodbye thing and all that, but some people don't, and therefore there's still stuff probably attached to that board.
Right.
You get it out and start playing with it, and next thing you know, you got silverware flying across the house like butcher knives and all this kind of stuff, So yeah, kind of be aware about just picking up any old board and playing a game, because you're not playing a game, you're playing with your life.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. Place your fingers on the planchette. It should be resting on the G space on the board to start. Ask all players to gently place their index and middle fingers on the planchette. Slowly move the planchette in circles to let the board warm up. Now, I've heard that's not necessary, but and concentrate on what you want to ask. Rest your fingers on it firmly, but without much force. If you hold it too stiffly, it won't move as easily. Be careful.
And that's also to prevent someone else from pushing it.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for. The last thing you want to do is stay up all night contemplating your imminent death. If you don't want to know the answer to a question, don't ask it. But if you do choose to ask your future, take note that it will be jokingly. Just like us mortals, spirits can't see the future. They're messing with you. If they tell you your sister is going to die in a week, don't ask silly or stupid questions. What did Billy tell his sister about me? It's not something your spirit may want to waste time on, not to mention how long it would take to spell the answer out.
I mean, if it really worked and they could tell the future, don't you think we'd all be asking for lottery numbers?
Exactly. So let's just whip out the old Ouija board and get the winning lottery number for next week.
Right,
You know, I need a couple of million. No, I mean, okay, anyway. Don't ask for physical signs. That's just asking for trouble. What's more, those you're communicating with may not be able to follow up. It's best to keep it contained within the Ouija. However, some spirits are okay with asking for proof. It varies. Don't believe everything the board tells you. If it says you're going to die in the next 10 minutes, just don't go running in front of buses. That's you fulfilling the prophecy, not the prophecy being correct. Ask a question. These should start out simple and progress as you get the feel for that specific session. If your spirit indicates that he, she is bad, it's best to close the board and resume again later. If you start but now, when I say this, how many of us going to tell you, oh yeah, I'm bad, don't play with me? Right? They mean, oh no, I'm just sweet butter wouldn't melt my mouth. You know, just saying. Okay. If you start getting rude or vulgar responses, do not mirror it with your own rude behavior. But you don't start using vulgar words, and don't shout if you get too scared, or just say goodbye to the spirits and quit. Concentrate. To get the best, most effective results, all players need to clear their minds and focus on the question at hand. Everyone playing, and I don't like that word playing because this is not a game.
Yeah, right.
Okay, but anyway, this is how, everyone playing needs to sit seriously and respectfully. If you have a friend who is laughing or encouraging ridiculous questions, kick them out of the room. As the planchet moves, you may want to have one person serve as the writer. Sometimes responses get quite lengthy and need to be worked out. So in other words, have you somebody who can have a tablet and pen at hand and write down the answers that you get. And of course, after you close the session out later, you can go over them with each other and whatever. And I reiterate, Ouija board is not a game. I don't care if Hasbro or Mattel or Parker Brothers or whoever sells them to kids. They're not a game.
There's a lot of stories out there about some real horrific things that have happened to people.
Exactly.
So, yeah, like you said, to remain calm in the last few words you said, it's the same thing with even paranormal teams. Most paranormal researchers or hunters, whatever you want to call them, they get hurt when something spooks them and then they fall down the stairs because they're running. Duh. So it's kind of the same aspect.
Okay, William's talking about Howard Street Cemetery in Massachusetts being the most haunted cemetery in Salem. I don't know. I haven't never been there. I would like to go.
Yeah, me either. Yeah. I personally have a hard time. I want to go to Salem, but, all of the negative stuff that's happened there, I'm kind of jaded towards it because at one time I did practice witchcraft. So for me, it's like, I don't really believe that half of these people they slaughtered were witches, and there's no way I'm going to endorse that. So even though I really would like to investigate Salem, it's kind of like one of those I don't know what to call it. I'm just, I can't participate in something that was so evil like that. To me, that was evil, the way they murdered everybody. But anyway, after you do everything that Roger said, you want to watch it move. You know, sometimes it's quickly, like we were saying earlier, and sometimes it's slowly. But once in a while, it just doesn't do anything. You know, but if everyone is focused and attentive, the planchette should slowly take off. You know, if everybody's focused on it and everybody's got their head in a positive place, it should move. I mean, I know my pendulum does. I know that for a fact. Make sure that no player is dominating the planchette. And I think that, like what Roger said about the finger positions, those are very important. And, you know, I guess, you know, there's clearly a reason it's moving. And, you know, people shouldn't play the game if they're going to be dominating everything. Every player should have the same amount of weight distributed on the pointer. You know, close the board. If the planchette starts doing figure eights or counting down from Z to A or counting down from 9 to 0, end the seance by moving to goodbye. Any of these three things happening indicates that the spirit is trying to escape from the board. It's very important to tell the spirit goodbye. You would hate, you know, you would hate to be left all of a sudden, wouldn't you? You know, and also I think there's a little something with things going in reverse. You know, a spirit being trapped maybe, but things in reverse also can contribute to demonic activity.
Right.
You know, have the medium or whoever, the sensitive person that's there, you know, when it's time, finish the seance and sweep the planchette over the goodbye symbol on the board. You know, of course, if you enjoyed the time with your spirit, say goodbye. I would say thank you if it was a positive experience.
Yeah.
And wait for the planchette to move to goodbye. You know, and before you box your board up, you want to rub it with a soft, dry cloth. This keeps it clean and prevents dust and moisture from building up. I personally would sage it afterwards to remove any and all negativity that would have tried to come through to pretend to be a positive entity.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a couple of little articles here that are some tales, I guess, of little stories that some people have had with the Ouija board. There's one here. My first mistake was calling a spirit a coward. My friend had mentioned that she had no one, so I asked her to pull the board out so I could check it out. At first she said no, then agreed to do so as long as she didn't have to participate. After she had the board set up, I asked, is anyone in there? Nothing. So being a dumb teenager, I said, if anything is in here and you're not talking, you're a coward. The board was put away after that. Fast forward now to about a week later and have me sleeping upstairs on my couch. I woke up to the stereotypical stormy night. Thunder and lightning, wind and rain, the works. I look around, see why I woke up, and couldn't see a thing. Decided to try to fall back asleep. After laying there for about, 30 seconds, I hear from downstairs, get the boy, in a raspy, wispy voice. And anybody who's had an EVP knows that sound. That, get the boy. Oh, man, gives me chills. I'm opening my eyes and I listen. Nothing. You know, start to go back asleep. You hear, get the boy. But it was much louder this time. Then the downstairs door slammed shut. It freaked him out so bad because nobody slept down there and there were no giraffes. You know, that's one story there. We got another short one here. Doing the board with 6 or 7 people, only one of my friends knows Latin, and he is not touching the oracle. The contact starts speaking to us in Latin. The same friend later pulled his hand back over the oracle, having received what looked like a small scratch on his wrist. Not bleeding, but bright red, and you know how they whelp up. His girlfriend at the time was plagued by the contact that they had made and would wake up with strange bruises on her legs. And them suckers can follow you home. I know that for a fact. I've screwed up and had that happen to me. So there's a couple little stories from people that attest that these things really work and can be bad.
Okay, we have another creepy deal here involving Ouija board. It says a creepy doll. I haven't
dolls. I don't do dolls.
About a Ouija board. I got a call from my cousin who said that his brother, his dad, and his best friend were using a Ouija board in their basement. Prior to starting, they took a large porcelain doll out of the room because it was creepy and placed it in an adjacent room face down on a pile of towels. My cousin took a short break because the board was just spouting nonsense, and he went to take a crap. I'm not going to say what he said. His dad and brother and friends started asking the boy questions without him. One of the questions was, who is in the other room? It just started spouting random numbers, and when my cousin came back into the room, his brother said that it wasn't working, that they were going to put it away, and he showed him the answer to the last question he asked, and he said, dude, that's my social security number. Then they started to talk to whatever started spewing answers out. It told my cousin he would die in the Air Force. At this point, they tell the entity they are communicating with to prove itself. It then spelled out the word doll, and they were like, what the,
Beep.
They opened, beep. They opened the door to check on the porcelain doll they had just laid in the other room, and when they opened the door, the doll was standing up right in front of the door, staring right at them. Everyone freaked and ran out of the house. His best friend burned the Ouija board, and I think he temporarily went nuts for a few months. My cousin, for some reason, then joined the Air Force and is on a base in Europe now.
You know what? That burning the Ouija board, I've done research on the Ouija board, and I've also heard other people say this. Burning the Ouija board is the worst thing you can do. You're supposed to bury it on consecrated ground.
I've heard that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another one for you. I asked it how long I had to live. And these are things you don't do, people.
Mm-hmm.
We all asked it a question that only the person asking would know the answer to. It would answer the question. One question that somebody asked was, what was the name of the boat I went on a cruise on when I was 6? It answered. We played with the thing forever. We had cold spot experiences, and would place a candle where the cold spot was, and the candle would burn sideways, not straight up and down. One night we all asked it how long we had left to live, and this is where it gets crazy. Everybody asked, and they had 50 to 60 plus years left. I go to ask, and it says 10. I asked 10 years, and it says days. I pretty much crept a brick at this point. It said I was going to be killed in a car accident by a girl named Emma. We would ask it 3 days later, and it would say I had 7 days left. Ask it 2 days later, it said I would have 5 days left, and so on. I'm freaking out at this point, carrying a Bible in my pocket and wearing a big cross. I finally tell my dad, and he doesn't believe me, so I made one out of a piece of paper and used a CD to show him. It worked, and he flipped out and told me that I didn't have to go to school that day. I was supposed to die. I didn't go to school, and nothing happened.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wonder what would happen if he went to school.
I don't know. I'm still on the fence with the whole Ouija board thing. To me, it's no different than an EVP recorder, but these stories are pretty interesting. Here's another one real quick. This is from someone who claims she was choked, and she politely says that there's no evidence, but this person does not care if I don't know if it's a he or she yet. Well, this person doesn't care if they're believed. They've used board with results and let something enter their home and have been physically assaulted by the entity. It started out with a feeling like you're being watched, and I think we've all gone through that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Doors closing, footsteps on the hardwood floors when you're home alone. I progressed slowly into being kept awake by something shaking the bed. I've heard of that, but I've never had it happen to me. Or pulling off your covers. Basically all the standard stuff that people, that have something in their house complain about. Sometimes even whispering your name. The board would disappear for days on end. Then show up in places you'd never put it, and this person became obsessed with it. Then they had a black mass in the corner of the room. We all know about these big shadow figures. We talked about it last night. Or a silhouette of a man, watching you from a doorway. After that, it escalated pretty quickly. That's because it manifested. Once it manifests, it's on.
Oh yeah.
This person had their hair pulled, their fingers pricked, scratched, choked, held down in the bed. The thing whispered into the ear, and it could have been Latin, but obviously it was a foreign language. These people had their house blessed, and the bad thing hasn't shown back up. Just the normal occurrences every now and again. But this person says she'll never ever play with the board again. That to me sounds like maybe an incubus had passed through. Because anytime it's bedroom comes through, something like that. It's usually.
And
let's see. Yeah, let's see what this next one is here. See through your window. This person was about 12 or 13, spending the night at a friend's house goofing around with the Ouija board. And him and his sister were getting all sorts of gibberish plus words spelled out, just kind of like scaring themselves for fun and not taking it very seriously. When they got the message, I can see you through your window, and then I can see you through his eyes, something like that. There was just a small window in the basement room where they were, so then there was just a little bit of a backyard and some woods past the driveway visible through the window. So they asked it more questions, and it said, I'm under the car. So they somehow got up the nerve to go out with a flashlight and peer under the car when they saw a huge black cat that was hissing at them. Oh, I got an opinion on the black cats, too. They ran outside freaking out at that exact moment when the power failed and all the lights in their house went out. They about beeped themselves. A few minutes later, the power came back, and they sat up till dawn because they were too scared, to go to sleep, and they never played with the board again. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of people out there that claim encounters with them,
Yeah. Here's one called Our First Mistake. My wife and I had some unexplained things going on in the house. We were renting, so we got a board so we could try to figure out what we were dealing with. Bad idea. The board was just a standard plain board. We used it one night to speak with, hopefully, our spirit. What we didn't realize is that Ouija boards open the door for anything to come through and speak. The looking piece flew off the board near the end of our session, and we had no real answers to anything. We were speaking with something, but it was very evasive with its answers. Things got worse in the house, and we eventually broke our lease and moved. Radios and TVs going on by themselves, water running. After the board through, things got bad. Voices, moving objects, and my wife says I got possessed one night, but I can't validate that as I was asleep. This was called OMG in Latin terms. Oh my God. Okay. My mom has warned me against using them due to her own experience. She used one at a friend's house when she was young. Nothing of consequence happened during the use of the board, yet she noted that whatever ghost they were chatting with seemed to be violent and have it in for her. She shrugged it off and left in her car. On the way home, she hit and gruesomely killed a horse, which appeared out of nowhere, running at her car in the middle of a city in the afternoon. Now, how crazy is that?
I don't know. It's funny, reading these things because I've interviewed so many people, especially, when I was knee deep into going into some of these locations, and a lot of these are sounding a whole lot like specific incidents that happen to owners of haunted houses, that claim they've never used a Ouija board. This next one is really short and sweet, so I'm going to go ahead and skip it because down here I'm really interested in this one because there was something that happened to me where I lost time. These people say we lost 10 hours. My friend and I were about 14 or 15. She had a Ouija board that we used quite often. She always thought that the other girl was pushing it for fun factor. She never took it seriously. One night they started, and it was about 9 p.m., they started getting very, very strange sayings. None of them, she says she can't remember 27 years later. but they got a name. Although the name she's forgotten over the years, let's see, it said that it must have been him, was from Malaysia, and that he was there to protect them. This person does remember that much. The next thing they knew is it was 7 a.m. It was like they blinked and the sun was up. It was very freaky. They lost 10 hours of their life. Neither of them remembered anything about it. They were just sitting there staring at each other like, what the heck happened? Too bad they didn't have a third person there, to tell them, but I'm sure that third person would have lost time too, but this person never used it again. And to this day, they don't know what happened. I've had something very similar happen to me. And that's another thing that led me to move on. It may sound corny or whatever, but there are such things as psychic abductions, and that's pretty interesting. I'm kind of relieved to see that it's happened, that somebody else has lost time too,
My buddy William's over there giving out some very good information, and William's good about that. Now he knows some stuff, and
yeah, I think I got him on my friends list too.
I have him on our list. He doesn't know it yet for future, but William, I have you on our future show list. I hope you don't mind. William's a great guy, and he's full of some awesome information. Really he is.
Right.
Anyway, back to where we were. This was called Warning. It's a short one, but I like how it starts out. The last experience I had with a Ouija board, the planchette flew across the room, smashing against the wall of its own power. There are a doorway, and unless you know how to interrogate the spirit, and I don't like that term, you have no idea whatsoever who or what is communicating with you. You've opened a door and called them through. And
interrogation is a hard word, but you do need to know what questions to ask to try to at least wean down.
But you wouldn't want to refer to it as an interrogation. They may not like that much.
No.
Accurate death prediction. Now we're getting interesting. I was staying at a hotel with friends in Northern Ontario for a chess tournament. Geeky, yes, I know. Can't exactly remember the town, and chess isn't geeky. I like chess.
I do too.
Anyway, we were looking for some thrills at night, and someone busted out a board. One of those official ones you can get from Toys R Us. We asked a few questions I can't remember, but I will never forget when we asked if it knew if any of us was going to die. Yeah, I know, strange question to ask. So it spelled out a person's name that was with us at the time, and then a date which was approximately a year later. My friend died a year later from cancer in his knee. He knew about it 6 months before he died. To this day, I am still curious about the device, but damned if I'll ever touch it again.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy. And here's another story here about it knew other languages. I mean, of course. I mean, when we're out here in the field and we're researching, I've caught things in Spanish, German. So why not? You're not necessarily going to get a spirit, if it's human, to come through that's going to speak English.
Exactly.
To me that would be a slight ignorant thing to think. Because it wasn't till anyway, I could go on for days about that. But this one I'm gonna try to shorten it a little bit because I've only got about 30 more minutes. So obviously someone was playing with a board here, and let's see, let me see if I can shorten it. They were talking to all sorts of spirits, and none of them were taking any of it serious. Then they thought of a way to put it to the test. I'm Kuwaiti American, was born in Kuwait. So I know Arabic and know of a friend of my brother that passed away recently. So I asked to speak with him. Now, okay, so this person was trying to call their friend through. Now, only one person knew me at the time, could get together, and didn't know that much about me. I was definitely the one who could speak Arabic. I was in Oklahoma at the time. So I asked in Arabic how he died. The board spelled out car crash. This person was a bit shocked, but still didn't buy it completely. So he asked for a more detailed question. I asked in Arabic how old he was when he died. It pointed to 1 and then 3. That's when this person really started freaking out. No one had ever known of these details, let alone understood what I was asking, because he was speaking in Arabic to the board. I asked for more details on a crash that he flew out the sunroof, and after that he stopped. He hasn't touched a Ouija board since. So, yeah, that's neat. And that's a tough one. You know, we don't know if it was the manifestation, telekinesis moving the board on its own, or if there's something really did answer him. The board's going to spell out Satan. That's always scary. This person's grandma bans them from her house because once when she was younger, her and her friends messed with one. They asked, who they were talking to. It spelled out Satan. And then her friend who owned the board started convulsing, and from then on swore she felt a presence every time when she sleeps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is weird because, Christians aren't supposed to open up doorways. It says specifically in the Bible, to not mess with, anything that opens doorways. So, so for an entity to come through and saying they're Satan, it's like, I don't know. I wonder about that.
Okay. Strange markings. My brother built a Ouija board once and had some pretty weird encounters. I'll have to ask him for the details sometime. Anyways, he shaved down his pointer thing once and found weird markings on it that only showed up under a black light. No markings found in the wood the pointer was cut from, and markers would show up as black under the black light, while this showed red. Anyone else experience this? No, because I don't play with them. But anyway, This is not a game anymore. What did I say earlier? This is not a game. Perfect story, 100% true. About 15 years ago, my sister had some friends over one night. They were in the basement watching some scary movie. They had a Ouija board. They started cussing at it and calling it the crap word and the effing fake. It stopped responding, so they began watching the movie again. All of a sudden, all the lights and electricity goes out. They start screaming. Then the TV comes on all static and is blaring noise. They were yelling and crying. Then the TV shuts off and comes back on to just a black screen. The words, "This is not a game anymore," roll across the screen all in white. After the TV shuts off and they are in complete darkness, they run out of the house. Afterwards, they go back to the house and our dog hid. And when they found it, all it did was bark and look very angry at them. Okay. In other words,
Yeah.
you don't want to cussing at Ouija boards. That's not a good thing.
Yeah. And dogs, dogs are sensitive just like cats.
Exactly.
Everybody knows that. I'm going to skip down here to Max is always around. When this person was about 14, her best friend had a sleepover birthday party. Being the silly little girls they were, they decided to make a Ouija board to use. I've done that myself. I made one out of a mirror once. Not really knowing any of the rules, like making it say goodbye as a way to close it. So after an hour or so, they wandered off to read some tarot cards and watch the rest of The Exorcist. Really? Those three in the same hour? No.
Right.
They went to watch the rest of The Exorcist with a couple of the other girls who didn't want to commune with spirits. Regarding the last sentence, this person feels like they sound like a stereotype, but still use tarot cards, though, so never grew out of the phase, it seems. And tarot cards are exactly the same way, because I read those, and, they can open doorways as well. And this person says, here's where it gets weird. After I left the spirit, talking to my friends changed. I'm sorry. Bleh. Here's where it got weird. After she left, the spirit talking to her, the friends changed, and it switched into a different spirit altogether. His name was Max, and he was looking for her. Never known a Max in her life. Her friends yelled out what he was saying as it moved, and she was writing it off and then teasing them until it started giving them information about her that no one in the party knew about. Things like about minor abuse and, you know, other stuff that she was going through at the time. And this freaked her out. She begged them to stop playing even after Max tried to convince her that he was not trying to hurt her. Her friends were awesome and stopped playing before she started crying and thought that was the end of it. The next time the Ouija board came out the next year, there was only one girl from the original party among the group. They were baking a cake, so when the buzzard went off, she and her friend headed up to take it out of the oven. When they got back to the group, another girl turned and said, "Who's Max?" Apparently, he stuck around after that first time. "It's my friends. I went to use a Ouija board. They don't invite me over unless they want to speak to Max. He's always around." So, and it's happened to her a few other times where they've heard a voice call out, you know, saying it's Max, and strongly believes that Max has stuck around to be helpful. But they've not pulled out the Ouija board since. So that's interesting. You know, that's a positive story. You know, maybe that's a good way to, you know, to speak to. Some people can't meditate. You know, they've got, what's the word? They've got, their brains move too fast if they can't slow it down. So that's a good example of how to speak to possibly your spirit guide instead of through meditation, through self-exploration.
My problem is either my brain's running 90 miles an hour, or if I do get relaxed enough, I wind up going to sleep.
And that's okay, because you're in the meditative mode, and if you fall asleep, that's fine. You'll usually dream, and the either a loved one or a spirit guide will come through then. This next one's a pretty long one, Roger, so I'm going to step outside. So if you get done before I get back in, then we'll just talk over what you... All right. Thanks, buddy. I'll be right back.
Okay. My girlfriend told me this story about an experience she had with a Ouija board while in high school sometime in 1986. She had a friend named Johnny who was suffering from CL or some other debilitating illness, who had recently been hospitalized as a result. Both she and her friend Kelly visited Johnny regularly in the hopes of keeping his spirits up and for a quick recovery. One night after visiting Johnny, they were at Shelley's when they decided to try out a Ouija board. After a while, they started communicating with a spirit who seemed to know a lot about them that it really shouldn't. After some questions about toys, boys, and general questions one would expect teenage girls to ask, my girlfriend decided to ask about Johnny and his condition. The board quickly spelled out 24 June 1987. Johnny won't have to worry anymore, and went to goodbye. My girlfriend and Shelley were so convinced that board was giving them a date for recovery that they actually wrote the message down and sealed it in an envelope. The following year, on 24 June, it turned out that Johnny indeed no longer needed to worry about his condition. It was the day he died. Ouija possession. Now, so basically, they got a death date. They thought it was a recovery date. They sealed it in an envelope.
Huh.
And I'm assuming this was so they could say, well, yeah, you know, we already knew you was going to recover. We had it sealed in this envelope. The Ouija board told us this, you know, a year ago. Whatever. But that's where when you get answers like that to questions, you know, they can have double meanings. So, you know, you have to be able to don't just take that as this is the right answer, you know. That's where you would ask another question, you know. So exactly what does this mean? Is this a recovery date or is this a death date, etc.?
Yeah,
I,
shouldn't really ask those questions at all, personally, because
well,
like I said, you manifest it. So yeah, that's
okay,
deep
Ouija
stuff.
possession. You've never believed in possession. I still don't know if I do, but I had an experience that makes me wonder. It started when I was 8 years old. My older sister would always talk to the walls. I thought she was crazy. She would always talk about her friend Annabelle and would introduce me to her. I never saw anything, but would usually play along. My doctors say it was a mental disorder, but my sister was perfectly normal otherwise. When I was about 15, my sister started using Ouija boards. I would watch her and her friends' sessions by sitting next to them, but I never had the courage to try it myself. I soon discovered who Annabelle was because she talked to my sister through the Ouija board. My whole family was creeped out. I remember one night waking up to my sister screaming in bed, tearing up her sheets. One day she licked her own urine off the floor. Oh, some days she would go the corner of the basement and eat spiders. Ugh.
That sounds like that show, that Emily Rose.
Yeah,
She would do that too.
and tear out her hair. Her pupils would constantly dilate and her voice would change. She would never respond to her own name. She would just insist she was a dog and howl. The doctor started giving my sister medicine to help with her disorder, but after a couple of months of strange behavior and her refusing to eat, my dad took her to an exorcist. I didn't go because I was too nervous. The exorcist claimed he got the demon out of my sister, but she passed away a couple of days later. I don't know what possessed my sister or how long she was disturbed. I'm guessing it was Annabelle who finally got an entrance when my sister used the Ouija board, or maybe she wasn't possessed at all. I really don't know, but I really do miss my sister, Ouija possession. I've never believed in possessions. I still don't. And this is a repeat? Yeah, it's a repeat. Okay. Why is it repeating? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic there. I'll be glad when we can do a show about that, because I've got so much to say. I really, really do on that stuff. Let's see. Let me see how long this one is. This one's a pretty long one, Roger. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be running out of time soon, so I'm gonna skip down to this one. Here's a story about a Ouija entity. When this person was about 14, they started to dabble with the Ouija board with their friends. They didn't really believe that anything would happen, but it did. The glass always moved really strongly, and whatever they brought through knew things about the individuals in the groups that nobody else could have known. The thing that came through was fixated on this person specifically. It claimed to be their twin, and coincidentally, the mother had miscarried a twin when she was pregnant. So it's kind of interesting. And over the next 2 years, they did lots of Ouija boards, but would always get the same entity. That's huh. So that's neither positive or negative. That's just somebody confirming that they would get the same entity. Yeah. Which is, I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know. I haven't messed with them since I was a kid, and this was well before I knew anything about the paranormal. It's just like, ooh, let's get in a spooky room and let's do this, And,
Exactly.
and I think that's what, the people who are haunted, so many
All about
years of their life.
it ain't fun anymore.
Yeah. There are a lot of groups out there that fully believe in the Ouija board, and they'll tell people don't touch them, Um,
Okay. An evil entity. Although I first believed that it was the ghost of my twin, I slowly came to realize that the entity was something else. It began telling me that it wanted to hurt my friends and that it wanted me to die. so that we could be together. Now that's freaky.
Mm-hmm.
I started feeling like I wanted to hurt people. I started feeling that even when I wasn't doing the Ouija board, it was still with me. Sometimes I would feel the bed move like someone was sitting on the end of it, and then I would feel the covers being pulled down off the bed. I would grab hold of them and try to keep them on, but the tug was too strong. Only when the covers were completely off my body would I be able to pull them back up. This would happen so many times during the night that I was constantly exhausted. Eventually, I went to a medium and told him everything. He took me to another medium, and they told me that there was something that had attached itself to me. And attachments are very real.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I will agree with that.
yeah, that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
They told me that this thing was very negative and fed off fear, and that's another thing that is true. And that I would have to learn to put up a barrier in my mind against it and keep the barrier up constantly. Now, I'm sorry, but now I gotta, what's the word? Iterate here.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an attachment that's messing with you, and somebody tells you, well, the only way you can fix this is to put up a barrier in your mind, you constantly got to keep that barrier up, you'd never have a peaceful moment.
Why's that?
You know,
Oh, because you're keeping the barrier up.
yeah,
I think
because
basically what they mean by that is just tune it out. You know, like the nagging kid on the plane when
yeah,
you're
but
going
you
to
would
a
have to keep
destination, you just tune it out.
you would have to keep a conscious thought all the time of tuning this thing out,
Okay,
tuning this
I
thing
see
out.
what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
To me, the best thing to do would be to go to somebody that could remove the damn thing.
Yeah, agreed.
And, yeah, keeping up a over the years, the visits got less frequent. Although, if I think about them or anything related to the occult, I feel its attention. Sometimes, when I am really exhausted, it can still get through. The most memorable occasions are these, and that's what I'm saying. Why wouldn't you go to a priest or something?
Mm-hmm.
Look, I've got this thing attached to me, and I need it gone.
Well, I mean, a lot of people there's so much stigma attached to the Ouija board that a lot of people don't because they don't want to feel the shame or whatever, especially with a priest. You know, like I said earlier, it's in the Bible not to mess with this stuff. And if they go to a preacher, then they're gonna you should have never done this. They're gonna get lectured and everything else.
Yeah. Are you a Catholic? No, I'm an atheist. Get out of my church. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Bangs in the night. I was in the house alone. My friend had left because she'd seen a distorted version of my face reflected in the window. Even though I had just left the room to get us a drink, as I got ready for bed, I could feel something horrible and malevolent hanging just behind me, a few inches from my neck. I was trying to ignore it and was desperately trying to maintain the barrier in my mind, but I was too scared and I could not tell that cracks were appearing. I got into bed and immediately heard scratching and scraping noises in each corner of my room. This went on for about an hour and then stopped. The horrible feeling that I had didn't leave, though. I knew the thing hadn't gone. After about an hour, a loud banging noise started in the bottom left corner of my room. I realized that the other side of the wall was where the staircase started. The banging was so incredibly loud and purposeful and carried on in the corner for about 15 minutes. Then it slowly started moving closer to where my bed was. I did not have a headboard, just my pillows piled up against the wall. Eventually, the booming was directly behind my head, so hard that I could see the pillows shaking with each bang. I was still trying so desperately to get a hold of my fear and telling this thing to leave, but it continued for what felt like 2 hours. I must have eventually fainted or fallen asleep out of sheer exhaustion. When I woke up the next morning, the thing was gone. It came back a few times after that, but never as strong as that night until maybe 15 years later.
Hmm. You know what's interesting is a lot of poltergeist activity will occur when a person, of course, is traumatized, like we talked about earlier, but also during the some stages of, for instance, puberty. Puberty is a big time when you're going through all your hormonal, your brain is starting to change and rewire. So there's a lot going on in the body that makes you more susceptible, and like, so this would be a good, for instance, that maybe something happened during puberty, and then 15 years later, whether it be male or female, we all go through the change. And once again, our bodies are rewiring, and, hormones are all out of whack and stuff like that. So that's a fascinating story. And, it's something to consider. When our bodies change, why is that, I wonder? Why do these things only seem to happen when our bodies are going through some sort of transformation? I guess maybe our vibrations go down or something, or we're weaker somehow. Maybe our auras are dimmer. Who knows? I mean, it could be anything. I really like this next story because I think all of us as a child at some point had that freaking door in our room that we were all terrified of. And this, that door that wouldn't stay closed, or we'd see it open or something. I haven't met anybody to this day that hasn't had that happen to them. Or you stand at your door and you run and jump into your bed real quick, and then you curl up in a ball because your hands or feet can't hang over. Did y'all do that?
Over your head and turn your little flashlight on.
Yeah, underneath, like, oh god, the little thing in the closet. So I like this story. I'm gonna read this one, and then I can't wait.
You peep out every now and then to see.
Yeah, those were or you keep the light on, because you didn't want the light off. So this is a neat story. I'm gonna read this one, and then I can't wait for the next one that you're gonna read, because that's that's the good one. Yeah. So this is a story about the door that wouldn't stay closed. At the time, this person was living in her house with her 2 daughters. She felt that familiar, oppressive feeling. Anybody that's done ghost hunting knows that feeling. And then the door to the room would open. There would be no breeze. The windows were all shut, and her girls were in bed. She got up, closed the door, and then climbed back into bed. 2 minutes later, the door opened again. She again closed it and got back into bed. As soon as she was in bed, it opened again. She closed the door once more and put a chair behind it. It opened and pushed the chair with it. Ugh, now that's when I would have moved right there.
Right.
I'd have been out of there. So she closed it, and all the while it's holding the handle. So she's standing there holding the handle, and it started to open again. So she pushed it back against the door, and it still carried on trying to open. Eventually, she had her whole body weight up against it, and something was still trying to force the door open. And this person wasn't strong enough to stop it. So she got back into bed and started picturing the wall in her head and trying to read a book. And then the horrible scraping feeling left, I guess from the door, and she calmed down enough to go to sleep. Whew, I don't know. If I felt something pushing against the door and I knew nothing was there, then I'd be breaking out, shotguns, and I don't know what I'd be breaking out. But yeah, let's get... Huh?
What are you going to shoot, invisible?
Yeah, the air, I guess. I don't know. You don't think right when you're petrified. Drop down to the Zozo. This is a very, I can't wait for our guest to come on and talk about this.
Okay, yeah. This is about Zozo, and we have a guest coming in the future to talk about that. A spontaneous decision led my friends and I to try Ouija Board for the first time. My friend Christian said, "Hey, dude, want to try a Ouija board? We'll be bored if we don't." Who could argue with a solid statement like that? So I went with my friend Christian and another guy and 2 girls to an old iron furnace in what used to be the town of Fitchburg. Fitchburg was a furnace and railroad community that was abandoned in the 1950s. Ooh, I love abandoned towns, so places like that. Anyway, I had read about several life-ending accidents at the furnace, and because of my attitude and skepticism towards the board, I decided that the furnace would be the best place to try. We arrived around 11 at night and set up the board, a table, and candles inside the main center column. Christian and one of the girls got on the board and started asking questions. At first we got nothing, but after 10 minutes the planchet started moving. This freaked both Christian and the girl out, but they continued at Christian's request. The board claimed to be the spirit of a little girl who had died in a train accident many years ago. What started off as a friendly spirit quickly turned more aggressive and told us to leave repeatedly. Christian kept trying to ask the spirit questions, but it would just spell out leave. Eventually, it creeped everyone out enough to end the session. The other guy who was with us said he heard a low growling noise, but in all honesty, that guy gets scared if the wind blows, so he is hardly credible in this situation. After ending the session, we quickly packed up the board and walked out of the furnace and back to our cars. About halfway there, one of the girls, the one who was on the board, began to feel nauseous and dizzy. As we approached the gate, she broke into a seizure. I am a CNA and was trained to deal with the situation and was very thankful for my training afterwards. While I was trying to hold her head during the worst of the seizure, I kept looking back towards the furnace. In the center column where we had just been, I saw the shadow of a tall man. When we looked in his direction, he didn't move or disappear. He or it just stood there. At this point, the other girl was crying and we were all shaken up. We quickly left, and as soon as we were officially off Fitchburg land, the girl who'd had a seizure calmed down, stopped hyperventilating, and regained her focus. She eventually fell asleep on my shoulder. Now, that's the last bit that we have for everybody tonight, but I have to ask this question. Where does Zozo come into this?
I don't know. I don't see it.
I mean, it's called that, but it doesn't mention that anywhere in the story.
No.
Is Zozo supposed to be the little girl?
I'm familiar somewhat with it, and it's this supposedly demonic entity is a lot of times the entity that comes through. But I mean, ever since I've been in this field, I've always been leery and have been told to be leery of little children and older people because that come through. Because those are the ones that we trust the most. We're not afraid of little kids or older people, the elderly. So to always be leery of those, and a lot of times, if there is a demonic style entity in the equation, they will try to come through as those or relatives. So I don't know. I don't know why that story didn't even mention it. It's bizarre.
Anyway, I
don't know, but yeah.
And
they didn't explain it at all, did they?
The tall man they saw, or figure, or whatever that they saw in the thing. Anyway, that's our show for tonight, you guys. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Michelle, thank you so much for stepping in.
You're very welcome. I wish I could stay longer, but yeah, I gotta go. And anytime you need a substitute, just give me a holler. Give me a holler, bro.
Thank you. Divergent Path, Mary, Meg, Roddy, William, everybody that's over there that I may not have seen in the chat room, thanks so much for coming. I hope y'all enjoyed it.
And be very careful with Ouija boards.
Yeah. I hope y'all took notes, and if you're going to use one of those things, please be very careful with it. We don't have anything else lined up as of right now. On the 21st, of course, between now and then, we will be announcing who our guest is going to be on Half-Assed Dead featuring Timeless Dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
So be prepared for that. Look, watch for the post. We'll be putting it up here soon. Otherwise than that, on the 26th, coming up very shortly, I will be in Old South Pittsburgh Hospital for a 2-night lockdown. Woohoo!
Yeah, I'm going to be at the Hannah House on the 21st in Indianapolis. There's a paranormal meet and greet there. So that's actually that's this coming Saturday. So
we
that'll be fun.
Have some fantastic plans ahead. So can't wait for those. Hope you have a big time where you're going. I know I'm going to.
I know. I wish I could come down there. I just didn't. I didn't get enough notice, or I would have tried to make it because that's for a really good cause.
Yes, it is. It is. And I'm not going to go into it and harp on that again, but everybody already knows what it's for.
Yeah.
Having said that, we will say our adieus, and we will catch everybody on the 21st. If something else were to come up between now and then, I'm going to let you know. So good night, everybody. Thanks again.
Good night, sweetie. Good night, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.